And so, the Odyssey has been released. I have not seen it yet. I've made a video on it that's here on the channel. I'm going to be seeing it soon. I will be reviewing it for the channel. But for today, I'm going to rank all of the other Christopher Nolan films other than the Odyssey, of course. I'm Jim, this is JimFLIX, and this is going to be Christopher Nolan ranked. So, Christopher Nolan, everybody knows who that is. He's recently been given a knighthood, so it's Sir Christopher Nolan. He is the mastermind behind the Dark Knight trilogy, Momento, Tenet, Inception, Interstellar. He's got an incredible track record. He is largely loved by filmgoers across the world. Some hard cinephiles do have a few issues with some of his films, as do, you know, some of the sort of regular public, I want to say, without sounding too elite. I really like Christopher Nolan. I enjoy all of his films. Then he's not my favourite filmmaker of all time, far from it, but I appreciate his films and all that he does for film. So I thought today I would have liked to have been reviewing Odyssey, but for a number of reasons I wasn't able to see it this week, so I'll be seeing it soon and I'll be bringing you that review. But I did want to rank the rest of his films up until the Odyssey, basically. So we're going to be ranking all 12 of the films, again not including the Odyssey, and just giving you a little bit of a brief kind of review of each, if you will, just a few thoughts on each one as we go. So without further ado, at number 12, The Dark Knight Rises. Not my favourite film from Christopher Nolan. I mean, for want of a better word or for want of a better phrase, it to me was very, very nothingy. It was okay. It kind of rounded out the Dark Knight trilogy, but it didn't excite me. It had, you know, had its problems. It wasn't great. A bit of a disappointment after the first two films. And really, I mean, it's basically a Christopher Nolan film that I will probably never watch again, if I'm completely honest with you, unless, you know, I do a marathon of all three films. But it is not a film that I particularly want to watch again for any real reason. Still good. I mean, still very good filmmaking, good storytelling, strong acting, but just didn't hit the mark. Next, number 11, I'm going to have to give to The Following, which is the trickiest ranking on my list because in some ways I would like to have put this higher, but when stacking it up against many of the other films, it just falls slightly short of those films. Now that's the thing with ranking videos, to be honest. We're not going from worst to best, as in I necessarily think any of the films are bad, but they essentially have to fall somewhere within, you know, that filmmaker's body of work. So for me, 11 has to be The Following. Although I do really like it, it is a film I'm definitely going to watch again, and a film for me that is quite important in as far as I'm an aspiring filmmaker, as well as having the channel and a few other YouTube channels. I've made a short film. I'm currently writing a few different scripts. I obviously have cameras. I do a lot of research into films, as well as being a cinephile. So The Following for me was an incredible treat to see someone like Christopher Nolan's progression, where he started, because basically he made this film over the course of a few weekends with friends on, I don't know what the budget was, but essentially it was just made with expenses. So a fantastic film, really, really good. Don't let the ranking of this film dissuade you from watching it. It is in some ways one of Christopher Nolan's most interesting films if you're a fan of his, just due to the fact that he was so limited with budget and so many other things. So an incredibly interesting watch, so do check it out. Then moving on to the 10th film on my list, I'm gonna give this to Insomnia, which again I would have liked to have put higher, but when I was going through the list and comparing it with other films, although it's excellent, it just fell slightly behind some of the others. I was kind of toying between this and Momento for the number 10 spot, but I did go with Insomnia at the end of the day. The other thing for me that is not a problem with Insomnia, but something that slightly tarnished it for me in some regards is that it is a remake of a film starring Stellan Skarsgård, also called Insomnia, and it is basically a remake. So it's very, very similar, and I do actually prefer the original Insomnia. So for me, it has that kind of second best quality to it, and quite different in the canon of Christopher Nolan's films, being that it is basically a remake. I do like it, I do appreciate it, but yeah, that is at number 10. And so obviously, as you can imagine, number 9 is going to Momento. Now, Memento is absolutely brilliant. I was a teenager when it came out, and it was really interesting the way that the film had that non-linear structure, and that some of it, goes back through time. Really enjoy it, really like it. It's definitely worth your time. I think everyone knows basically what Memento is about. I don't want to give away spoilers with any of these films, so basically just watch it. It is definitely worth your time. Probably one of his most underseen films, along with Following and Insomnia. All three are fantastic, but yeah, Memento is a good one to watch, because that was the first film that Nolan did where he had some money behind him, and an incredible script by his brother that he then adapted for his version, his film. And yeah, Memento, check it out. Number 8, I'm going with Batman Begins. Now, Batman Begins I really enjoyed, and in some ways I preferred it to The Dark Knight, but I couldn't put it above Dark Knight, if I'm honest with you, as I've watched them both recently, and I just had to go with Dark Knight as the more superior film, just for a number of reasons. I think that the acting is definitely better. It is just more engaging. Although The Dark Knight was fantastic, it's definitely an origins film, which I do like, but I liked the fact that the Dark Knight was like a fully formed film, like Batman was Batman at that point, and obviously the Joker is great. Heath Ledger was fantastic. Just a classic, a modern classic. And I'm not a big comic book or, kind of Marvel film fan or anything like that. And so the fact that The Dark Knight I enjoy so much, and I can watch it as a standalone film and really appreciate it, is a testament to it, basically. And so moving on now to number 7, that does go to The Dark Knight. Loved it for all the same reasons that I loved Batman Begins, but for me, Dark Knight does just take it by a whisker for the reasons I mentioned previously. If you haven't seen it, which I can't imagine there's anyone out there who has not seen The Dark Knight, do watch it. It is fantastic. It really is, I think, the point when Christopher Nolan became Christopher Nolan as you know him today. A lot of stunts, a lot of practical filmmaking, and just sensational. And this film was the reason I think that we got Inception, which is one of my favourites, because basically I think because he really delivered with the Dark Knight trilogy, particularly The Dark Knight, he was then kind of given free rein with some of his other projects, and so allowed him to really push the boundaries and make some really interesting films from there on. So next, number 6, I'm going with Interstellar. Now, a lot of other people have this higher on the list. For me, I love it. I think it is absolutely incredible, but the reason that I've chosen a few other films higher than Inception is, I would say, down to 2001: A Space Odyssey. Now, the problem with Inception, or the snag with Inception, I want to say, is some of the exposition at the end and some of the quite in-your-face emotional elements. I think that the emotions are heightened a little bit, and the film is trying its best to make you cry, I guess you could say, or it is really trying to be very emotional, and the exposition was just a bit of a pain. The reason I say that is down to 2001 is that 2001, along with The Handmaiden, Park Chan-wook, are my 2 favourite films of all time, hands down, by a long, long way. They're just masterpieces. masterpieces, and the reason that 2001 is such an overwhelming masterpiece is the ambiguity with it and the fact that it does not explain itself one little bit. And the exposition in Interstellar was not a problem until we got to the end of the film, and it's really just that scene where Matthew McConaughey is basically in the, well, I don't know, the other dimension, the wormhole, the whatever you want to call it, and he's kind of explaining everything as he goes, which I just think it could have been done so much better, and it was just a little bit of a downer at the end of the film. I thought that what would have been so much more powerful is to just be in that situation with him as he's just completely confused and doesn't know what's going on. And I think that if it was told a bit more visually as opposed to with the, you know, the exposition, it would have been stronger and potentially could have been maybe my favourite Christopher Nolan film. But due to the exposition and the strong emotional kind of edge to the film, if you will, that is why I'm putting it at 6. Now, it sounds like I was being a bit negative with that review, but really I'm just explaining why this was at number 6. I love the film. I think it is largely amazing. It is really just for those reasons that it's not higher on the list, and so hence the explanation. Number 5, begrudgingly, I'm going to say that number 5 is Oppenheimer, which is a knockout. In some ways, my favourite Christopher Nolan film. I think it's just amazing how exciting it is and how riveting it is, particularly when you consider how long it is and the fact that it's basically kind of a courtroom drama, along with, you know, some of the other elements in there. It really is engaging, and the music and the tone and the pacing, I love it. I absolutely love it. And if it wasn't for the other films on the list, that would almost certainly be number 1, but it's not. It is number 5. And next, this is the real big controversial choice of mine. At number 4, you've guessed it, it's not been on the list yet, so I think you know what I'm going to say. Number 4 is Tenet. Yes, I know. A lot of people really hated Tenet. I loved it. I thought it was amazing. I thought it was just brilliantly experimental. Christopher Nolan just really having fun and trying something different. There's nothing like it. I love the fact that it was a puzzle to put together that I still haven't entirely put together. So it does give it great rewatchability as far as I'm concerned, because there is more in there each and every time you watch it. Some of the exposition was a bit of a pain, and some of the dialogue was somewhat cringy. I agree with some reviewers in that regard, but for me it was an experience, and it was something different, and it was interesting and fun, and I thought the visuals were fantastic, the music was great, the whole concept behind it just as a whole works really well. The palindrome, you know, the palindromic music, along with the fact that the film was a palindrome itself, the name was, I just really appreciated everything about that film, and I unabashedly think it's fantastic, and one that I have watched many times and I will probably watch many times again. An unpopular opinion, so I'm sure there will be some comments down below about that, but sorry, not sorry, that's my choice for number 4. Now, the top 3. In at number 3, these 3 were tough, these 3 were difficult, but number 3 is going to be Inception. A lot of people's favourite. It really was a big hit at the time. A lot of people just loved and raved Inception. I did also. I did fall out of love with it for a few years, and it is one of those films that for some reason, strangely enough, I don't get overly inspired to watch when I'm choosing a film to watch, but the times I have watched it, I love it. It is fantastic. The acting is amazing. It is real, as far as I'm concerned, that is like quintessential Christopher Nolan. That is his film. It's big, but it's also quite small in terms of big themes, but characters are all great. The dialogue is good, not too much exposition that seems out of place or clunky. The whole thing just works really well. It has all the stuff that I love about Tenet in there. It also has all the stuff that I love that were in The Dark Knight. It is just, that is Christopher Nolan to me, and I think that in years to come that will be looked back on as possibly as the Christopher Nolan film, in my opinion. Which brings me to number 2, maybe his most different film in some regards, but also his most grounded, and this could have very easily been number 1 for me, but by the tiniest of margins, by a whisker, it is going at number 2, and that is Dunkirk. Now, for some reason, this is a lot lower on people's lists than it is on mine. Why that is, I don't know. I think the film is just absolutely amazing. It has all of the elements of a Christopher Nolan film that you want, but it is kind of packaged within a subject matter that you wouldn't necessarily associate with Christopher Nolan. It's a war film. It's a real story. Obviously, the evacuation of Dunkirk to the UK is got real heart. It's got all the emotion that you want. Like I said about Interstellar, that was one of the things I wasn't keen on, was the emotional kind of gut punch that the film tries to deliver. I think in Dunkirk, it is done perfectly, absolutely perfectly. It doesn't try to make you cry or make you feel emotional. It is just there. It's undeniable. It's real. It's raw, and it all just works beautifully. And the way that the film is presented in the different timelines, and also in the different kind of forms of attack, if you will, or the different elements of the battle going on, so the air, the sea and the land, I just thought it was immense. One of my favourites, in my top 100 films of all time. Just stunning, incredible, and very, very easily could be my number 1. But there is only room for one number 1, and yes, I've gone with The Prestige. Why this wasn't at number 2, I don't know. Dunkirk in some ways is my favourite Nolan film, but The Prestige just beats it by a whisker. I thought that I love the rug pulls and the twisted nature of the film. It reminds me, again, a tiny bit of my favourite film of all time, a film I'm obsessed with, and that is The Handmaiden. It is nowhere near The Handmaiden, I just want to say. It really doesn't come close, but it does have some of those same elements to it, I want to say. It has a similar kind of exuberance, a similar kind of sort of pacing, a lot of similar rug pulls and twists in a way, but I mean, it doesn't come close to The Handmaiden. The Handmaiden is just, as far as I'm concerned, it's absolutely perfect. I will do a review on The Handmaiden one day, by the way, and probably a whole video just generally analysing and breaking down the film, but I'm not going to go off on a Handmaiden tangent, which is very easy for me to do, so I'm going to shut up now about it. The Prestige. The acting is fantastic. Again, the emotional elements and the heart of the film is not overdone. It's not forced in your face. It's quite realistic and visceral and raw. I don't want to give away spoilers, but there are moments in there that are just wow, fantastic, and they're not visual elements as such. It's story elements and twists and what have you that really stand out. So I'm not going to say too much more about it. The Prestige is one of those Nolan films that does go on, that just kind of fly under the radar. I think it's due a serious resurgence, and I think it may get that with the Odyssey and a lot of these ranking videos that people are putting out. So hopefully I've done my bit to inspire you to watch The Prestige if you haven't. But that is it for today. I look forward to watching the Odyssey, and I look forward to giving you my thoughts on the Odyssey when I have watched it. Like and subscribe. Comment down below with thoughts on my ranking list, where I've got it right, where I've got it wrong, where you agree, where you disagree. Go easy on me for Tenet. Each their own, subjectivity and all that. But yeah, I'll see you next time, guys. Thank you very much.